Hi, and welcome back to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is August 1st, and today we're going to be talking about a really interesting sea creature.
It's a beautiful creature. On top of that, we're talking about the Wonder of Stingrays.
Wow, if you don't know what a stingray is, you better go look it up. We're not allowed to speak Chinese, but they are really very interesting. They have a kind of triangular shape.
Yeah, they look like big pancakes with the happy little eyes on top. And they have a long, graceful tail, and they look like they kind of fly through water in a certain way.
And they can sting you, but we're going to talk more about that later. So here we go. Our title again is The Wonder of Stingrays. Stingrays strike both a sense of wonder and fear in humans. These fascinating creatures have been swimming in oceans for over 150 million years, which means they existed during the late Jurassic period when dinosaurs still roamed the Earth. Currently, there are about 220 different species of stingrays on the planet, with more than 25 species endangered.
Stingrays are commonly found in the shallow coastal waters of temperate seas, while the venom in the stingers or barbs on their long tails is for a form of self-defense. These sea creatures are usually non-aggressive. However, swimmers and divers can get stung by accidentally stepping on them. Although most injuries are not severe, immense pain or even death can result.
Stingrays, which appear to fly through the water by flapping their pectoral fins, have changed little over the eons. They do not have bones, a characteristic they share with sharks. Instead, they have skeletons composed of cartilage, a connective tissue also found in human ears. Cartilage is more flexible and lighter than bone, allowing stingrays to be more maneuverable in the water.
Unlike other fish, which lay eggs and then wait for them to hatch, stingrays give birth to live young. This is because their eggs develop internally and receive nourishment directly from the mother. Once born, the young stingrays are ready to fend for themselves, and they quickly learn how to survive in their environment. Stingrays spend the majority of their time inactive. They bury their flat bodies in the sand, leaving their defensive barb sticking out to protect themselves as they rest or digest their food. This behavior helps them conserve energy and stay safe from predators.
From their fully developed babies to their flexible skeletons, venomous stingers, and sand-sleeping habits, stingrays will continue to intrigue us for many more eons. I hope that humanity can make it that far. I mean, the way things are going, I sometimes wonder. I want to mention one other thing. At the beginning, I said that stingrays have a triangular body. That means it is shaped like a
triangle.
Right, but a lot of people say triangle, and that's wrong. We don't stress the second syllable, we stress the first syllable. Triangle, triangular. Triangle, triangular. Okay, back to the beginning, the wonder of stingrays. Wonder means something that really inspires you, is really interesting and wonderful and amazing.
So I want to ask you about the name. I like to think about the names of the things that we give. I don't know how often people do this, but we receive our language from our parents or from outside sources, and we just kind of accept it as that's the way it is. And I like to just kind of chew on these words sometimes. When you hear the word stingray, does it evoke any fear or like terror? Does it feel like a scary animal to you? Knowing what you know about them, put that aside. Does the name stingray kind of imply a sense of danger with this animal?
There are a couple things that come to mind. The first thing is that, yes, it does scare me because it's probably going to sting you. Otherwise, why would they call it a stingray? It's like calling a bee a sting bee. So it's going to sting you. Yeah, that's definitely what I think. The second thing I think is that I think there was a car that was called a stingray.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And
it was
like a cool muscle car. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. So that's the second thing I think of. And the third thing I think of is a shopping center in Minnesota.
Was it dangerous to go?
No, I don't think so. It was a place I didn't go often. But I thought, what shopping center is that? It has a similar name. It was
the Stingray.
No, Sunray Shopping Center.
Oh, well,
that also came to mind. So what this tells you is when we hear a word, maybe you know the Chinese for it, but maybe you're not thinking about the associations that come up in the mind of a native speaker of English. It's really important to know these because even if you didn't say something, the other person may be thinking something that you're not aware of. So you never heard of the car. You don't know that when I hear stingray, I'm actually thinking of a car, and then I'm thinking of a shopping center. Now, How can you know all that? No, it's not easy. But just be alert to this issue. Be aware that people have associations, and that is actually part of the meaning of the word.
That's funny that you mentioned this too, because my high school students, I also encourage them to do this very same thing. As I kind of think about the word, what's in the mind of the native speaker.
Right.
And one way I suggest them, sometimes with hysterically terrible results, is you could put this word into like a Google image search.
Right.
And because foreigners are developing these images, and they will send you back kind of the associated images with this thing. And sometimes it's really accurate.
That's right.
And
sometimes.
Sometimes it's a disaster. There's been a couple of like really innocent words. I'm like, what does this feel like in Google Image? And I'll just type it in, and it's like some sexy girl or something.
Right.
And my boys fall out of their chairs. And so there's
more.
Yeah. So it's always an interesting little insight to the Western mind, but sometimes it does come with a little risk and danger. Check those words first.
That's exactly what I do in class. I say, especially for nouns, go to Google Images first, because you'll see a long description in the dictionary and still maybe not know what it's like.
That's right. What is this?
Right. But Google Images will usually tell you, but sometimes it's the name of a video game, or it's the name of a TV series or movie.
Or a motorcycle or something. Yes.
And you see all these images that are not what you're looking for. So like Chris says, maybe half the time it's pretty good, but it's still worth checking.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our title, The Wonder of Stingrays. That means there's probably a lot about them that we didn't expect. Our first sentence, stingrays strike both a sense of wonder and fear in humans. And that's exactly what Chris was asking about. Like, Karen, what do you think when you hear stingray? I think of stings, the first thing. And that means if you hear there are stingrays in the water, I probably will not go swimming. So how about you? What's your reaction?
I just think they're really majestic and lovely, and they're very beautiful. They look, as we'll see later, they're very docile. This means calm. They don't have very big emotions. But they are animals, and they don't want to die. They don't want to get eaten, and so they will protect themselves. And you can get stung, but they're not really trying to hurt you. I don't know. I dislike the name stingray personally because I feel it invokes more danger than they really pose.
It's not fair to them.
But that's right, and it's not my name to change. I just have to sort of live with it.
It reminds me of two scenes. It's two scenes that come up in my mind. One is the flying fish of Orchid Island. They have traditionally survived mainly on flying fish there. The fish really do fly through the air. And also dolphins. They also fly through the air a lot. So if you have seen these videos of stingrays, they also seem to be flying.
They've jumped right out of that water. Okay.
Second sentence. These fascinating creatures have been swimming in oceans for over 150 million years, which means they existed during the late Jurassic period, when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. And this gives us a lot of information. They've been around a long time, like tree ferns. Tree ferns were around in that period. They've been around for a very long time. So when they talk about dinosaurs and the Jurassic, I think a lot of us think of a Steven Spielberg movie.
Of course, that was a big movie. In fact, that came out, it was 1993. So it was, 40 years ago?
And there have been how many?
No, 30 years ago. A lot.
How many in the series?
A lot.
Yeah.
There have been many sequels since then, including multiple reboots and stuff.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen any of them either, except the first one. I like the first one.
Okay, so that's what we think of Jurassic. You're going to have to look that up.
I want to add a note here. Look at the verb we associate with dinosaurs here. Dinosaurs still roam the earth. This is a very common phrase when talking about dinosaurs. We could just say when dinosaurs were still around.
Or when they existed.
And we really like to say this verb, roam around. We walk without a destination. Like they're kind of dopey and just lumbering around it.
They're dangerous.
Yeah, they're dangerous. I don't know. Roam feels kind of slow. There's a lot of fast dinosaurs.
That's right. Next sentence. Currently, there are about 220 different species of stingrays on the planet, with more than 25 species endangered. Now, when they said 220 before I looked at the rest of the sentence, I thought they were going to say there are still 220 dinosaurs roaming around. That's what I thought they were going to say. So you have to look ahead. So there are many different species. I bet that would be, I wonder if they have a video on this, probably, because I'm sure that they are really interesting to look at.
There's big ones, little ones, that's right. Pay attention, species is always plural. You should circle that S there.
You are right, but people are now using it in the singular.
Have you heard it?
Yes, I keep notes. I can find it in my notes if you want proof. So this species is quite unusual. I heard it just recently.
I totally believe you because we talk about this several times where we've had discussions where I've definitely heard this before, and you might say a point. And it's not to contradict you. It's just that language evolves or people are loose with language.
Right.
And
it's
it is one of those things. And because you and I focus on language, it is something that we pick up and then we write down like crazy people. We have like folders full of notes.
Exactly. And so I think it's probably getting more and more common now because people interpret that S as a plural, which it is not. Species, a species. It's just a certain type of plant or animal, a living thing.
Be careful of the word endangered. It sounds like a short I. It's an E-N, endangered, but we don't really say it that way.
Endangered. That's right. Okay, second paragraph.
Stingrays are commonly found in the shallow coastal waters of temperate seas.
When you see that ATE, you might be tempted to say 8. Now, we've discussed this on the program before, but temperate here is an adjective. If the word is an adjective or a noun and you see ATE, say ut. For example, temperate, delicate.
Chocolate.
Intricate. That's right, chocolate too. But if it is a verb, we usually pronounce it 8. So, for example, graduate and so forth, complicate, etc. Then we will pronounce it 8. So when you see ATE, just first of all, think a minute, is this a noun or an adjective? Then say ut.
So Karen actually was the first person that really introduced this specific rule to me. I had never come across it personally in my own studies, and I say it in my own classroom a lot. And I always think of Karen when I come across this with my older students. And I always teach them to say, eat 8 chocolate. And then I use one color for eat 8. And then at the end of chocolate, I also write ATE of chocolate in that same color to differentiate the pronunciations. They can see it spelled the same, but you don't say it that way.
That's right. So watch out for that in your reading and when you're speaking. All right. So they're found in shallow coastal waters. That means it is close to the shore where humans going swimming are likely to see them. Shallow means not deep.
And temperate means it's not too hot, it's not too cold.
Well, it can get very cold because, in fact, I come from a temperate climate and so do you. And I wouldn't describe our winters as not too cold.
That's fair, although there aren't a lot of stingrays in Buffalo, in the Great Lakes.
Temperate, there is a Chinese equivalent for it. It does get cold. It just means that it is not tropical and it's not subtropical.
All right, let's continue. While the venom in the stingers or barbs on their long tails is for a form of self-defense, these sea creatures are usually non-aggressive.
Watch out for the word venom because that's something that often comes out of, it can come out of a stinger, it can come out of a tooth. Like with snakes, a lot of people say, oh, that's a poisonous snake. And I say it too. Technically, you should say a venomous snake.
So the rule is, if you bite it and you die, it's poison. And if it bites you and you die, it's venom.
Okay.
So a stinger and a barb. So a stinger's on the fish, obviously, but the barb is like the fish hook. So think of a fish hook and it has that little triangle point. That's a barb.
Okay. And they have very long tails, and this is to protect themselves. However, they are usually non-aggressive. That means they're not going to go around bullying people or bullying anybody. They just need it in case they're in trouble.
That's right. So a shark is an aggressive animal. A stingray is non-aggressive. It doesn't want to fight. Let's continue. However, swimmers and divers can get stung by accidentally stepping on them.
What would you do if somebody accidentally stepped on you?
Don't pee on them. This is an old wives' tale. So
oh, really?
Yes, that's right. In fact, I double-checked this too because I was thinking, like, is it better to drink a lot of water and have clear pee or have very kind of maybe more acidic yellow pee? And the fact is there multiple doctors and lifeguards pointed out this is an old wives' tale. Pee, which is a famous old wives' treatment for stingrays, is not acidic enough. In fact, vinegar is much more useful. I wonder who the first guy is that peed on their friend.
I never heard about this. I guess it was better that I didn't hear about
really?
it. All right, so watch the word accidentally. In Chinese, you will often say, I wasn't careful and I stepped on your foot. We don't say, I wasn't careful and. You say, I accidentally stepped on your foot. And accidentally, it's all okay.
So interestingly, this venom from the stingray was an early form of anesthetic, and Greek dentists actually used a very diluted version of stingray venom to dull pain before surgery, but the exact recipe they used, unfortunately, has been lost to history, but it is one of the first and only ways we could really dull pain before modern eras, except for like alcohol and opium.
Actually, lots of poisons and toxins from animals and plants are used in medicine. both in Chinese medicine and Western medicine.
Okay, let's continue. Although most injuries are not severe, immense pain or even death can result.
Now, that sounds like a bit of a contradiction, but they're saying usually there aren't problems, but occasionally you could actually die from it.
Yeah, that's right. It's usually not the venom itself. It's actually from the strike, generally speaking. The famous conservationist Steve Irwin from Australia was famous for loving very venomous snakes and crocodiles, massive crocodiles. And he was a true lover of these animals. He's exceptionally famous. And sadly, one day while he was filming a show talking about, these docile animals, he spooked a really big one and it struck him right in the heart.
Oh, no.
And
that isn't Crocodile Dundee, is it?
No.
Yeah,
This was... He was very much in the spirit of Crocodile Dundee without being a cartoon character. He was a true lover of animals. He was a true conservationist. And he was sadly done in by a very peaceful animal. It was just very unfortunate that the barb got him where it did. It struck him right in the heart.
And I'm imagining that if you get any kind of a sting, often the bigger danger is getting infected.
Yeah, very much so.
Our next paragraph. Stingrays, which appear to fly through the water by flapping their pectoral fins, have changed very little over the eons. A couple of interesting words here, like pectoral, it comes from the Latin word for chest, so their fins by their chest. And another interesting word is eons. You've got 2 vowels in there, 2 consonants, very short, 2 syllables, eons. It means many, 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 many years.
That's right. And it's indefinite. There's no clear distinction of where it starts and where it ends. If you go to the gym a lot, guys, and you use that muscle where you put your forearms on the bar and you squeeze it together to the middle of your chest, that's called the pec deck because pectoral is Latin for chest. It's the pec deck.
Another good word is flapping. That means you are waving your wings and it often makes a sound. They do not have bones, a characteristic they share with sharks.
And indeed, sharks and stingrays are closely related.
Okay, they have cartilage, as we'll see in the next sentence. Instead, they have skeletons composed of cartilage, a connective tissue also found in human ears. And in Chinese, the word for cartilage, I don't have to say it in Chinese, is soft bone.
That's what I love most about Chinese. All these hard words in English, and you have these nice little compound words in Chinese. It just makes learning it so easy.
Exactly. Cartilage is more flexible and lighter than bone, allowing stingrays to be more maneuverable in the water. Flexible means that you can bend it easily without it snapping and breaking. Maneuverable means that you can control it. To maneuver is to control something. Yeah, it's from the Latin word for hand. So something that you can control with your hand is maneuverable.
In the last sentence, we had the word tissue. Tissue, that SS has an SH sound, and that's in your body. This isn't the thing you use to blow your nose. This is the muscles in your body. These are the specialized cells in your body that work together to form an organ.
Okay, next paragraph.
Unlike other fish, which lay eggs and then wait for them to hatch, stingrays give birth to live young.
Which is interesting, but it does occur with some sea animals like seahorses.
And stingrays will give birth to 2 to 6 babies, which is surprising. I feel like stingrays would get eaten pretty quickly, so they should have more. But 2 to 6 implies that there's a good amount that can live to maturity.
And can take care of themselves.
Let's go to our next sentence. This is because their eggs develop internally and receive nourishment directly from the mother.
So instead of laying eggs, the eggs are growing inside the mother and getting nourishment then.
Nourishment just means nutrition. They're getting food and energy from the mother. Once born, the young stingrays are ready to fend for themselves, and they quickly learn how to survive in their environment.
This phrasal verb is really useful. Is she able to fend for herself? That means, can she handle situations and protect herself all by herself?
So when we say once born, this just means when. We won't say once they were born. That's not accurate.
After they were born, or after they have been born.
And stingray babies don't stay with the mom after they are born, but some freshwater stingrays will actually take care of their young until they're about 1/3 the size of mom, and then mom says, hey, you got to go.
You're on your own. You must fend for yourself.
That sounds like a tough day, right? Like, well, you're old enough. Get out.
Got to deal with it.
Let's go to our next sentence. Stingrays spend the majority of their time inactive, like me. No.
Reminds me of a sloth.
Yeah.
There are animals that just don't move around a lot.
So when we're inactive, we don't do a lot of physical movement. They just sit there and kind of hide and wait for food to come to them. Let's continue. They bury their flat body. Do you say bury or bury?
I say bury.
Bury? I say bury.
People on the East Coast tend to say bury.
I bet it's a regional one, eh?
Pennsylvania, yeah.
Okay, so they bury or bury their flat bodies in the sand, leaving their defensive barb sticking out to protect themselves as they rest or digest their food.
So I'm kind of taking it easy now, but you better think twice about getting too close.
So this is weird. So the gills on a stingray are on its bottom, and it spends its time buried in the sand. How does it breathe? Well, stingrays actually developed basically holes behind their ears, and they can use that to suck in water and breathe both ways, from the bottom of their gills or from behind their eyeballs. Let's continue to our next sentence here. This behavior helps them conserve energy and stay safe from predators.
So they can keep themselves safe without being completely alert all the time. Our last paragraph, from their fully developed babies to their flexible skeletons, venomous stingers, and sand sleeping habits, stingrays will continue to intrigue us for many more eons. And as I said, with all this talk about climate change and everything, I'm a little worried that we will get that far, but I certainly hope so.
And hopefully humans don't do them in before we do ourselves in. Interestingly, this last little sentence, this is something I always suggest to my older students when you're writing your concluding statement. If you can, and it's not always appropriate, but if you can, especially for like a high school level composition, rework your main points into a nice little sentence. Wrap up your bow. It lets your reader know you're finished. And I can kind of see what your main points are right here. It tells me that you recognize that you're building yourself a nice structured composition. Point 1, point 2, point 3, wrap it up.
While I agree with that, on the other hand, don't overdo it, because my father taught me composition when I was young, and he would look at my composition, he'd say, get rid of the first paragraph, get rid of the last one. So don't overdo it.
It's really a high school level thing. If you're beyond like a good high school level writer, you're free to be more creative with your writing style.
Exactly. We have a few questions for you. Number 1, why does the writer mention dinosaurs in the passage? The answer is
D, to show the lengthy period of time stingrays have existed.
Number 2,
which of the following statements about stingrays is true?
Letter B, there is something in common between stingrays and sharks. Number 3, how do stingrays give birth to their young?
And our answer is A, they bear or they have offspring that are live. And number 4, according to the passage, what might the stingrays in the two pictures be doing? And the answer is C, saving energy and keeping themselves safe. They're chillaxing. They're really taking it easy there.
Okay, that's it for today. Tune in next time. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.